This weekend in South African Schoolboy Rugby, we've got one of the biggest events on the calendar, the North-South Tournament or the Noord-Suid Tournament. It brings together top schools, top players and some massive matchups that you do not want to miss. For those of you who may not know, this tournament features some of the best rugby schools in the country, with northern schools of South Africa taking on southern schools. It's always a showcase of elite talent, and scouts are watching, coaches are watching, fans are watching, old boys are watching, and this is basically where Craven Week and SA Schools players really tend to make their mark. The first big headline clash on day one is Paarl Roos versus Monument. Now, Paarl Roos comes into this game full of confidence after a strong win over Affies, while Monument have shown real improvement this season, especially after their performance against Grey College. Monument actually won this fixture back in 2023, but historically, Paarl Roos have had the edge in most meetings. Now, Paarl Roos were ranked 5th in South Africa last year and continue to produce top provincial and national players. This season, they have beaten Droste, Wynberg and Affies. And key players to watch include Leon Barnard, a very versatile and powerful forward who can play hooker, prop or flank. And then, of course, Travis Pfeiffer, a top-class fly-off who scored 25 points last week, including 2 tries, 6 conversions and a penalty. And then, of course, Tiaan Basson, that I've talked about in other videos on my channel, the captain and centre known for his strong ball carrying ability and growing international interest in France and the UK. Monument, on the other hand, they were ranked 28th last year. They've also produced some very strong players over the year. They've lost to Grey College this year, but showed great determination, especially last weekend, and they had a big win over Welkom Gymnasium. Their key players include Jaden Viljoen. He's an EPD, elite player development under 17 fly-off, and he's got a very strong kicking game and a good vision and good control of the game in general. And then Ruan Genis, who will ever forget the 2 outstanding tries that he scored against Grey College last week. Now, one important point here is that Paarl Roos struggled defensively on the wings last week, conceding 3 tries out wide. So if that happens again, Genis could cause some serious problems for Paarl Roos. Now, the last result between these two teams was 14 points to 11 in the favor of Paarl Roos. And my prediction is just Paarl Roos to edge it by about 8 points, maybe 10 to 15 points in general. Monument have been showing great improvement, but I just think Paarl Roos really looks like a very, very classy outfit, and especially with people like Travis Pfeiffer in the driving seat, they do look very, very dangerous indeed, and definitely one of the teams to watch this season. Then, the next matchup is Stellenberg versus Garsfontein. And this one could be a very, very close contest. In the last 4 meetings between these two schools, these teams have never been separated by more than a single score. Stellenberg, they look very sharp this season after strong wins over Paarl Gymnasium and Worcester Gymnasium, while Garsfontein are coming in with confidence after a big win over Noord last weekend. I think they smashed them 41-3, although they did also lose to Jeppe earlier in the season. Now, Stellenberg were ranked 11th last year and produced several provincial and SA Schools players. Their key players include Ethan from Bouillon. He's the current Western Province Craven Week fly-off and SA Schools fly-off, who plays a very important role in their attack. And of course, Jovan Burden, a very physical lock who brings a real presence up front. Garsfontein, on the other hand, they were ranked 7th last year, and they've also produced a number of top players. Their key player at the moment is their fullback, Druin Baron, and a very exciting fullback, and he's got exceptional pace, vision, and he's a very dangerous guy in open play. Now, based on current form, Stellenberg do look a little bit stronger. They really look like they mean business this year after their win over Gymnasium and the scores that they've racked up over the last 2 or 3 games. And my prediction is, although Garsfontein has shown great improvement, especially with that win over Noord, I just think Stellenberg is slightly stronger, and I think they will win this one by about 3. What could be a little bit of an upset, given the fact that Garsfontein will be playing mostly in front of their home fans and their home crowd, but I think an upset on the card here, and I will give this one to Stellenberg. Finally, we have Affies versus Oakdale, and this game is expected to be a very physical battle. This will take place on Saturday on day 2, and especially among the forwards, this is going to be an absolute war. Affies will be looking to bounce back after their loss to Paarl, Roos, while Oakdale will be aiming to improve after a mixed start to their season. Now, Oakdale were ranked 6th last year and produced an impressive number of players in the provincial SWD side, including 14 Craven week players, 11 Academy week players, and 3 SA Schools players. Now, their key players for this weekend include Adrian Smith, a very active, live-wire, hard-working hooker who's also an EPD member, Dean Augustine, number 4 lock, a massive physical specimen who's 203 centimeters tall and weighs 120 kilograms. And then Jaco de Villiers, the SA Schools number 8 and captain of the Oakdale side, who is a very strong, very athletic and very well-balanced number 8 and a very influential leader for his side. Affies, they were ranked 4th last year. They've also produced a strong group of players. Their key players include Charles Els, their hooker, Martin van Niekerk, their lock, and Hannes Nagel, their prop, that I think will form the basis of their pack and will basically have a big influence whether the pack dominates or not. And then, of course, winger Joshua Gous, who scored 2 tries against Paarl Roos last week. Now, if Affies can get the ball out wide, Gous could be very, very dangerous, as he showed us last week. But this game will likely be decided by the forwards. The last result between these two teams was 32 points to 10 in favor of Affies. And my prediction is, although Oakdale is one of my favorites team to watch, and they've got some real talent in Jaco de Villiers and Adrian Smith and Dean Augustine, as I mentioned earlier, my prediction is just that Affies, because they've got the home ground advantage, and just from what I've seen from their Waterkloof game in particular, I think they will be maybe a tad bit too strong and edge Oakdale by 10 points in this match. Now, outside of these 3 matches, there are a few other fixtures worth watching and paying attention to. Jeppe versus Paarl Boys Eye. Jeppe ranked number 15th versus number 1 ranked side in 2025, Paarl Boys Eye, could be closer than expected. Paarl Boys Eye were pushed very, very hard last week by Outeniqua, while Jeppe come into this game with confidence after beating Garsfontein earlier in the season. So an upset is definitely possible, and let's not forget that Jeppe also caused an upset a few years ago by beating Grey Bloom at this very, very festival. So yeah, upset definitely on the cards. Then looking at day 2, some other fixtures that I think could be worth watching is Nico Malan versus Welkom Gymnasium. I think this could be a strong contest. And I'm also keenly interested to see how much Nico Malan has progressed, because they really look solid after the recent win over Queen's College. And then also, if Paarl Gym can find their rhythm against Noord at the bottom of the screen. Because if Paarl Gym finds their rhythm, I think Noord can be in for a very, very long day, especially given the hiding that they got from Garsfontein last week. Now, just a reminder, this is a 4-day tournament, and we have not even discussed teams like Grey College in detail yet, or Paarl Boys High. So I will be releasing another video covering the key matchups for day 3 and day 4 tomorrow. So if you enjoyed this video, and if you are interested in SA Schoolboy Rugby content, including fixtures, results, player analysis, please make sure to like and subscribe and check out the rest of my channel. After all, this is the home of South African Schoolboy Rugby.